Hey everybody, Tom Sparks, Sparks Media Group. Today we're going to go over the process of configuring this Nanuk 955 case to be able to put the DJI FPV Fly More combo inside of it. So as you can see, I bought the case with the cubed foam insert. I got this case on Amazon. I want to say it was around $300. And once again, it's the Nanuk 955. I made this video over a few days, so you'll see a few changes in the angles. I wanted to take my time and get it as close to right as I could. I do have to say that my fake OCD was kicking in a little bit when I was cutting out the cubes. They weren't all perfectly symmetrical, and I was wishing I had some sort of laser cutter or something a little easier to cut the foam with than the X-Acto knife that I did use. To do this, I used an X-Acto knife as well as a Sharpie, and that was it. So I'm just trying to figure out where to put the drone at in the case and still have room for all the accessories with it. So I settled right upon this location here. So I put the drone upside down, and I'm going to trace the outline of the drone on the foam. Wanted to leave a little room on the sides, on the edges, so that the foam didn't break away. This is cubed foam, and I didn't want it to rip apart on the edges. Not really accurate with the Sharpie here, but I did as best I could. Totally winging this here. I decided this would be a good spot for the goggles. So again, put them upside down and trace around. Next, I'm going to put the controller, and again upside down, and trace around it. I have the Fly More kit, so I have 3 more batteries. I have 3 batteries total. But I decided to make a spot for 4 batteries. And really, I can put one inside the FPV drone, so this case should be able to hold 5 batteries. I'll have to say this is my first time ever customizing a case, and it was a little nerve-wracking. Here I'm making a spot for the motion controller. So again, I'm going to put it upside down and trace around it. Thought process is everything is traced upside down, but going to be put right side up in the case. So the top layer you want to have at the widest parts. Here we have the charging station. And the AC adapter. And then this is the battery for the goggles. Now I have a bunch of cables, extra propellers, the power plug for the AC adapter, and I'm going to put all of that in the lower levels of the foam. I originally wanted to use this box cutter, but I remembered I had an X-Acto knife which was going to give a smoother cut. I'm going to go grab that real quick. Now this isn't going to be pretty. Again, first time ever customizing a case like this, and so I'm kind of just winging this. I'm going to fast forward a lot of this cutting, but it's a lot of up and down movements, peeling away and slicing and being very careful not to cut myself, being very careful not to cut into the case or into the foam below this level of foam. Now I'm tracing along the lines and peeling it away as I'm tracing. And once I get it all around, I'm cutting out the middle, or trying to cut out the middle. So I sped this up, but I am going kind of slow. In real time, I was going kind of slow, just so that I didn't cut off too much or rip the foam and go outside of the edges. If anybody's done this before and has a more efficient way to cut the foam than using an X-Acto knife, drop a comment below and let me know. I'm curious. Here we're going to do a test fit and make sure the FPV drone fits. And then what I'm doing is I'm marking where the motors are and the feet on the drone on the pad below, because I'm going to trim a portion of that out. Now I'm going to remove the top piece of foam and then start cutting the bottom piece. As I'm cutting this bottom layer, I'm not going all the way through. I'm going maybe a quarter of the way. So I'm keeping the X-Acto knife a little bit shallower. I'm doing this because the drone doesn't have to sit through this pad all the way down. It can rest on about a quarter or half of a layer of this section of foam padding. Now that we have it trimmed, I'm going to put the top layer back on and then test fit the drone. And it fits well. Now I'm going to cut out the area for the AC adapter. I found it easier to test it as you go, test the fit as you go, to see that it fits well. Now that I tested it out, I'm going to mark the second pad because I'll be cutting that out. This AC adapter is pretty deep, and so it's going to go through both pads. And once again, we're going to test it out. So I'm putting everything back. Just checking out the fit. And I'm going to mark on the third pad below and cut out a very small section, maybe about a quarter of the way deep, just to give this AC adapter some more room so it's not poking into the egg carton foam up top. We skip ahead a little bit here because my battery died and I didn't know about it on the camera. But I'm just checking out the fit of the AC adapter and the drone. And here we are on day 2. Move the camera so we can get a better position. Here I'm cutting out the spot where the goggles will fit. As I was doing this, I kind of felt like part surgeon, part butcher. Now we're going to check and see if the goggles fit. So what I need to do is trace the outline of the goggles on the pad below to cut out a small portion so that the antennas will sit in little pockets, and that will allow the goggles to sit lower in the case. So just tracing around the antennas here. And as I usually do, I'll outline it first. And on this pad again, I'm cutting off maybe a quarter of the depth. I wanted to start with just the antennas to see if that would give it enough room before I did the remainder of this area. And we're going to test fit this. Here I'm going to work on the RC controller pocket. As I'm doing this, it's definitely getting easier, although it does take a lot of time. Here we're going to try to see if the RC controller fits. And it does. So on to the next one. Now we're going to work on the battery area. This one we're going to cut all the way out. I cut this one a little big so the battery went in there kind of loosely. Not a huge deal. I have to cut the bottom pad slightly and remove some material. So I'll make that one a little bit smaller so it holds the battery securely. But now we're going to mark it so we know where to cut. Now, for whatever reason, this one marked really close to the edge, so I decided to back it up a little bit so that I wasn't so close to that bottom edge there. But here we're going to take off about a quarter of the pad. And we'll try a test fit. Looks like we're good to go. Next, I'm going to go into the FPV Motion Controller. We're going to repeat the process, trace the outline, and then start cutting through. Now this controller is oddly shaped, so I know the top is going to fit, but now I have to create a little hole in the second pad for the bottom to go in. I kind of just stabbed where I thought that bottom was going to go. Here we're going to just do a rough outline of it. Removing about, I don't know, maybe half of the pad on this one. We're going to check it out. It's still sitting kind of high, so that means we have to remove more. At this point I chose to remove all of this section from the padding. I keep saying padding, but I really mean the foam. And we'll do another test fit. Now here I'm just going to start putting everything in and getting a visual of how everything looks thus far. And that's it for the second day of cutting the foam. Here we are on day 3. I'm going to take everything out. And now we'll continue on with the battery areas. Now we'll do the area where we're going to put the charging block for the batteries. I was going to put it between the controller and the goggles, but there's a really small area there and I didn't want it to rip. So I'm trying to figure out another spot to put it in, and I think I'm going to put it right here. Now this one we're going to go all the way through the first layer, and then we'll trace around the second layer, and we're actually going to go all the way through the second layer. I see that there's still some area to go lower, so we're going to go about a quarter of the way through the third layer, maybe half of the way. And there you have it. That's a good fit. Next, we'll work on the area where the battery for the goggles is going to go. So that covered most of the components, but I still have the propellers, the ND filters, and all the cables that I need to find space for. So I'm going into this third layer, and I'm going to cut out a section. No worries, there's still another layer beneath this that I'm not going to go through. And that area fit the propellers and the ND filters quite well. This is a GoPro mount, so I'm going to mark out an area for this and then cut it out. I have some cables that I need to find space for. Pretty much all the cables that support the FPV. So I'm going to cut out this section, and that's where the cables will go. And there you have it. Now I'm just going to put everything in there and see how it secures. Now the exterior dimensions on this case are 25.6 inches by 20 inches by 11.8 inches. Interior dimensions 22 by 17 by 10.2. This case is pretty big. It does hold everything. I wanted a big case that held everything, including the drone with the prop guards on and with the camera guard on the front. That adds a little bulk to it. I could have bought a pre-made or a pre-cut case that held the drone without the propellers installed, but I'm lazy and I didn't want to do that. So I sacrificed and got a bigger case. This case is waterproof, of course, IP67 rated, dustproof, shockproof. It has automatic purge valve that equalizes the pressure on the inside of the case when traveling. It does have a 2-stage retractable pull handle. It does have wheels. I really like these cases because of the latching mechanism. They call it a 2 power claw triple action latch. So I think going forward, if I was to cut another case, I would figure out a better way to cut the foam where it's a little less choppy. You can see all the cut marks in the foam. On the underside, it's not pretty at all, but this works for what I need. It'll allow me to carry everything in one case, which is super helpful, although it's big. But there you have it. We're going to lock it up and be done for the night. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. And of course, we'd love a like, we'd love a share, and please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.